Okay, so I watched a few different videos and documentaries about this topic.
Well, there are literally hundreds out there,
Yes.
so that's nice.
Fascinating.
Yes.
But one thing kept coming up, and I want to ask you
Okay.
as a British person.
Oh.
Okay. So it's the pronunciation.
Oh, Cecil or Cecil.
Yes.
So in England, we say Cecil.
Yes.
Yeah. But Americans, Canadians, North Americans say Cecil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, which one are we going to go with today? I say Cecil.
If I had met someone, like a
Yeah.
real human being called Cecil, I would call them Cecil.
Yeah.
But I think most of the documentaries, and I would say literature, but literature, you just read it. It's however you want it to be in your head, to be fair. But yeah, most of the documentaries or people speaking about it, they call it the Cecil Hotel.
Yes. I thought it was like a solid 60-40.
I don't think, to be fair, there's not another name that's really coming to my brain where it kind of has that double pronunciation. Like, you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm Brian. No, actually, it's Brian. You know,
exactly. But I find that in a lot of documentaries, this is a really big thing, especially when you're reading about World War II.
Yes.
And things like that. You're going to have these experts. And there's always that guy that says it completely differently. And almost in a way to make you think oh, well, he's an expert. He's saying it differently. He must know something we don't know.
Thing. The other thing is, and I believe it's an English saying, but if you're from somewhere else and you say this too, is it's an old saying, but it's never trust a Cecil.
Oh.
I don't know where it originates.
Really?
I don't know what it comes from, but for some reason in my mind, it sticks out as a saying, never trust a Cecil.
I wouldn't trust this Cecil.
Absolutely not. I mean, we'll talk about it, but would you stay a night in the Cecil Hotel?
So
Cecil.
I did a few things to just kind of get myself into the mood of this. One of them was I went on Google Earth and I looked at the surrounding area.
Okay.
So you have the hotel.
Yes.
And it's a block and a half is where Skid Row starts.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I did a little Google Earth walkthrough of Skid Row.
Ooh.
I don't think I would have a good time. And then the other thing that I did is I went on to reviews of people who have stayed there.
Because it's got a different name now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not called the Cecil or Cecil Hotel anymore.
And it's essentially closed now. You can't stay there anymore.
Oh,
and we'll kind of get into that at the end. But the main consensus is, number one, people don't feel safe there.
Roger that, yeah.
Number two, the water is very gross, in some cases brown or black.
Yeah.
A lot of shared bathrooms.
Oh.
A lot of cockroaches and things like that.
I believe
it is filthy.
Oh, gross.
There are people who say that they checked into their room and it just felt like it was covered in dust and grime and everything like that, which is really unfortunate because when you look at the inside and what it was meant to be, and we'll kind of start off with the history of that them building it.
Yes.
It was a beautiful place. It was stunning.
In its time, at its peak, I mean, you could classify the peak as several different things throughout the history of this hotel.
Yes.
I mean, you could be peak murder, you could be peak prosperity.
Yeah.
But I would say at its peak, it was supposed to be a luxury place to stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
A fancy place to stay.
So no, I would not stay there because it is apparently revolting. I would probably come back with lice or bed bugs or something like that. So in theory, I would love to say we'd stay there.
But you know what?
No.
There's far cleaner haunted places to visit.
Yes.
We could go stay on the Queen Mary.
Yes.
Which we should do at some point.
The Lizzie Bed and Breakfast.
Absolutely.
Seems like a nice place.
I might be scared shitless by the time we leave.
Yeah.
But at least I'm not going to leave with scabies.
Exactly.
That all being said, hello everyone, I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Dina. Welcome to the Grim Curriculum.
So obviously, as we've kind of premised here, today's story has a little bit of everything. We're going to be discussing all the murder, mysterious deaths, hauntings, and overall just a lot of tragedy. But this case is different because we will not be talking about one particular thing or person. We're going to be talking about many different things.
We're going to be discussing a place that seems to have been shrouded in darkness shortly after opening its doors to the public. We are talking about the Cecil Hotel Did I say I was gonna say Cecil or Cecil? I already forgot. I knew this was gonna
I
happen.
think you said Cecil, but you know what? Just for funsies, I'm gonna flip flop. I'm gonna say it
Yeah,
different every time, and you can all put up with it.
absolutely. We've been wanting to cover this one for a while,
Yes.
and what surprised me when we were looking into it was the sheer amount of tragedy associated with it. When we first kind of were planning this episode, we
Hmm.
found, like, the list, and we were just like, "Holy shit, like, this is a lot."
There's not many places where on Wikipedia there is a list that you can scroll through
Yeah.
of the amount of tragic deaths that have occurred.
I think the majority of people are familiar with some of what went on there, particularly the Elisa Lam story, which we're
Yes.
gonna talk about, but we mean it when we say that the Cecil Hotel was troubled from the very start.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time and yeah, very, very grim and gruesome. The history of the hotel is darker than we originally thought, actually, when we were going into this story. And we've included both well known deaths as well as some stories from small newspaper clippings in an attempt to try not to leave anything out.
Some of the newspaper clippings that I found, and a lot of what I used as a resource was old New York or Los Angeles Times
Hmm.
articles. Some of them are like 2 sentences.
This person died at Cecil Hotel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it simply adds to the tragedy
Mhm.
when you become almost a footnote
Oh, yeah,
in history, and not
absolutely.
even that.
In 1924, William Banks Hanner, Charles L. Dix, and Robert H. Schlops set out to build a world class hotel for travelers. Do you love
Okay,
Schlops?
I Charles Dix and Robert Schlops,
Yeah.
were they I just porn star names? Hello? Like, I don't know what's going on here. I guess it's the 20s, so everybody had those names.
The Cecil Hotel boasted 19 floors, 700 Art Deco inspired rooms, a marble lobby, stained glass windows, and other luxurious touches.
At the time of its opening, LA was right in the middle of the roaring 20s. It was a decade of economic growth and prosperity, and industries such as real estate and cinema were booming. And like we all know, Los Angeles was the place to be.
Together, the three men invested $2.5 million into their venture, which is close to 60 million
Ooh.
Canadian dollars in today's money. They expected the hotel to be a groundbreaking and exciting place to stay. Somehow, they missed the fact that numerous other hotels had recently been built nearby.
Not exactly carving out your own little niche there.
No.
Not only that, transportation was becoming more and more easily accessible to all members of the public. People could simply commute into Los Angeles for a day of work rather than having to stay in a hotel for an extended period of time.
So, when they had the idea for the hotel, a lot of people didn't have cars.
Oh, but by the time it was
Yeah.
completed, things had changed.
And very quickly.
That happens a lot, but the 20s, actually, the beginning of the 20th century, sort of
Mhm.
1900 to say 1930, crazy how much, like, if you think about it, the Wright brothers had their first flight in
Yeah.
the early 1900s, and by the 1930s, we had fighter planes.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's an amazing period of time, and especially the 20s, because what was happening in the 20s was people were realizing, "Hey, I can make a lot of money."
Yeah.
And the banks were seeing that too. They would
Mhm.
give out these huge loans to people, which eventually is gonna backfire, spoiler alert.
The 30s.
Yes, but it's a really remarkable period of time because you look at it and it's, like, very different from the 2020s. There's
Mm.
a lot of hope.
Oh, that is so dark. Oh, man. The design of the hotel also had some significant flaws. For example, not every room had a private bathroom. The original pricing for the hotel listed rooms with a shared bathroom at $1 a night. A room with a toilet was $2 a night. If you wanted to spring for a full bathroom experience, that would run you $2.50.
I'd go the extra 50 cents.
I 100% would go the extra
Mhm.
mile. Yeah.
Many people didn't want to share a bathroom, so they opted for the more expensive rooms. This created unbalanced demand for the rooms, and because the hotel was already over budget, they never changed that.
So even though people were like, no, it's the 1920s, everybody wants a toilet in their
Yeah.
room. But it was too late. You can't just be putting toilets in if the plumbing's not there.
Yeah, and that will never change.
Oh, if anything, it's like, no, put more toilets in, not
Yes.
less toilets. The wealth and excitement of the Roaring Twenties obviously came to a grinding halt in 1929 when the stock market crashed, plunging the world into the Great Depression. Despite its previous good fortune, LA was not immune to the economic collapse, and the tides quickly turned.
The Great Depression led to an increase in crime, particularly murder. It didn't take long until the area surrounding the hotel was dubbed Skid Row. Even in the 1930s, it was home to thousands of people with nowhere to go but the streets.
And I feel like Hollywood, LA, is the place where you go in search of the American dream,
Hmm.
only to be very disappointed.
And a lot of these people, 9 years prior, 5 years
We're
prior,
doing very well for
fantastic.
themselves.
And suddenly they have nothing.
The severe loss of assets and the ongoing struggle resulted in many people taking their own lives. This is where the Cecil Hotel began earning its dark reputation.
The first incident on record took place on January 22nd, 1927. Percy Orman Cook took his own life. He had written a note addressed to the press stating that he had spent the last of his money in an attempt to buy happiness.
Percy had been a successful real estate agent whose son was attending Harvard, but like many others, he lost everything, including his family. He wrote that he had spent his final week working up the courage to end his own life, and did so while staying in a room at the hotel. In a second letter to his wife, he wrote,
Money cannot buy happiness. I have tried it and I find that it cannot be done. I have lost my wife, my son, and my home, and I am doing the only thing left for me to do.
yeah, money can't buy happiness if you don't have any money.
Yeah,
If you have money, you can buy happiness.
I fully believe money can buy comfort, which can equal to happiness.
Absolutely. When you're comfortable and when you don't have the financial stress, or, the stress of having to figure out where you're going to find your next meal,
Yep.
or where you're going to have a roof over your head, very easy to be very miserable.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're comfortable, life is a lot easier, and with ease comes
I
happiness. I
completely agree
believe
with that.
anyway.
Tragically, the story of Percy Cook is not unique. In the 1930s, the Cecil Hotel would be home to at least 6 self inflicted deaths.
On April 17th, 1929, Dorothy Robertson collapsed near the main stairwell in the lobby. She had recently lost her husband and had been seen wandering the hotel for days, visibly grieving. She was taken to a hospital, and it was determined that she had attempted to take her own life by overdosing on barbiturates. She survived and was released, but tragically took her own life shortly after.
On November 12th, 1931, a 46-year-old man named W.K. Norton from Manhattan Beach checked into the hotel using the name James Willies from Chicago. His body was found 6 days later, and it appeared that he had ingested poison.
To go all the way from Chicago to LA just to end yourself?
He wasn't
Although,
from
I was gonna
Chicago,
say, to be fair, he's not from Chicago.
which is a weird, like, I understand we're going to see a lot of fake names, but like, no, I'm from Chicago.
And also, I mean, again, there is really no sense in suicide. It's very hard to wrap your head around
Hmm.
anyway. Chances are you're not in the right mindset if you're in that mindset anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but why does it matter if you give a fake name if you're about to end your own life?
Yeah.
Unless you don't want to be found, but who cares? You're dead.
No one knows why he used a fake name or what he had done in the 6 days before his death. A short newspaper article about the incident was reported in the Los Angeles Times that shows he had been listed as missing. But other than that, there's not a lot of information about his death.
Less than a year later, 25-year-old Benjamin Dodich took his life in the hotel. He did not leave a note, and because of this, his death was also shrouded in mystery. His body showed clear evidence that he had died via a gunshot wound to his head, but after interviewing nearby guests, police were surprised to see that no one had actually heard a gunshot despite the incredibly thin walls. So, do we think he was shot somewhere else and then brought to the hotel? Or do we think someone shot him in the hotel and left?
Yeah,
Crazy.
it gets weird real fast.
Real fast.
On July 26, 1934, Sergeant Louis D. Borden was found dead in his room at the Cecil. He had recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Sergeant Borden had written several notes to his loved ones before cutting his throat with a razor.
Oh, that is
Hmm.
rough. Oh my goodness. Even this early on in its history, it's very clear to many that the Cecil Hotel was the site of immense tragedy. It shouldn't come as any surprise that locals began to gossip about the hotel. Soon enough, stories of potential paranormal activity within its walls were being whispered.
It seems that the first instance of potential spiritual deaths began with 25-year-old Grace Magro. On March 15th, 1937, she fell out of the window of her ninth floor room. Her fall had been broken by power lines, and she was found with a weak pulse. She was rushed to the hospital but didn't survive.
Not only did Miss Magro not leave a note, she was also staying in the room with a sailor named M.W. Madison. Police were unable to confirm whether she had jumped or was pushed. When questioned, Madison claimed to have been sleeping. This was corroborated by hotel staff. How would they know?
I don't know.
Are they in there watching you sleep?
That's the thing I didn't get. And I found a few articles about this one, again, very short, but it was very clear that he was not a suspect
Hmm.
because he was sleeping. And I'm like, you can probably push someone off of a balcony pretty easily.
It's not hard to unbalance someone
Yeah.
in an already precarious position.
And then just run back to bed and just snooze.
I feel like maybe someone paid off our hotel staff to give alibis,
Mm.
but maybe we will never know that.
Like the other deaths, this was reported in newspapers across LA. People began telling stories of an evil spirit who had pushed her out of the window.
Yeah, I think his name is Madison. He's an evil spirited dude pushing bitches out of windows.
By now, the employees were uneasy, and the hotel was quickly gaining a reputation. And I was thinking about this.
Mm.
I would hate to be a housekeeper at this hotel.
Oh, I'm sure hotel staff on a fairly regular basis come across dead bodies. I'm
Yeah.
sure they do. Whether you're talking creepy rural Motel 8,
Mhm.
on some abandoned highway, or whether you're talking about, the Fairmont McDonald Hotel downtown Edmonton that's
Yeah,
bougie, right? People die.
they
People
do.
die on planes, people die on cruises, people die in hotels.
So many people die on cruises that cruises have morgues built into them.
Exactly. But it sucks for you as staff. You maybe,
Mhm.
I'm sure you find all sorts of gross things in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure people could tell stories. But you start your shift, you're not expecting to find dead bodies.
No.
Or can you imagine walking up that day and you just see the police cars outside and you're like, "What now?"
Yeah. And I'm sure that's what it was like because at this point, it's happening pretty often.
Mhm. A few times a year at this point
Yeah.
already. Less than a year later, a 35-year-old fireman named Roy Thompson checked into the hotel with his wife Mary. A week later, he stayed behind while his wife went for a swim in the ocean. At some point during the day, she drowned. Upon hearing the news, Roy was filled with regret for not going with his wife and felt responsible for her death. He climbed onto the roof of the hotel and jumped off.
Upon inspection of his room, it was recorded that there was nothing out of place. Roy did not leave behind a note. There was also no presence of drugs or alcohol. Once again, people began to talk, and it wasn't long before people were saying a spirit may have pushed him.
I wonder if maybe he was in trouble with the mafia and they drowned his wife and then they pushed him off the roof.
I'm loving your theories. Because, I mean, at this time, like we said, crime is very high.
It's the
Mafia's out there.
dirty 30s,
Hmm.
you know?
And I want to quickly touch on the paranormal aspect here for a
Yes.
second because we're going to be hearing about it a lot. I think anytime that tragedy happens without a full explanation, people are going to try to find a way to make it make sense. And
Mhm.
sometimes the most reasonable explanation that people might have is also the most unreasonable.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to talk about it, but I've always said I do consider myself a skeptic.
Yes, but I'm a skeptic who really wants to believe. I
Exactly.
really, really do, but you gotta give me some solid evidence.
We've said this before when we talk about like haunted locations that there's certain places that we discuss where if somewhere was going to be haunted,
This would be it. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
By 1938, the Great Depression had really started to hit Los Angeles even harder. The area around it was becoming more and more dangerous. The streets were littered with trash, and people had begun living in shelters and tents at an increasing rate. At this point, as a result, the hotel lowered its rates.
On January 10th, 1940, a 45-year-old schoolteacher named Dorothy Shiger checked into the hotel using the name Evelyn Brent. At some point, she ingested poison and was rushed to the hospital. Dorothy died shortly after. She had written to her relatives saying she was intending on taking her own life, but other than that, little is known about her.
That's the thing with a lot of these deaths. Some of them have enough information about them that we could potentially do a whole episode just about that one person. Others are mentioned in small paragraphs in old newspapers and have otherwise been forgotten.
This episode is without a doubt full of disturbing stories of death, but we do want to issue a quick content warning for the next one because it's extra sad.
In September of 1944, 19-year-old Dorothy Purcell and her 38-year-old boyfriend, I like how you put in brackets, ew, Ben Levine, were staying in the hotel together. One night, Ben was sleeping and Dorothy locked herself in the bathroom. She had been unaware that she was pregnant and went into labor.
When the baby was born, it wasn't moving. Dorothy, not wanting to wake Ben up, threw the newborn baby out of the window. She would later tell the police that it was stillborn, but an autopsy reported that he had been born alive and
Oh
well.
no.
Dorothy would later be convicted guilty by reason of insanity.
Woof.
Mhm.
That is horrible. The next story is likely not a death that occurred within the hotel itself, but it is worth noting. In January of 1947, multiple people reported seeing Elizabeth Short in the bar located within the Cecil Hotel. This would be the last time she was seen before her own grisly murder. Elizabeth Short, as you guys may know, the Black Dahlia.
Yes, and if you want to know more about that case, check out episode 5.
It was one of our early ones.
Yep.
Still one of my favorite.
Absolutely. I
It's
love that story.
it's a fantastic case.
Mhm.
It's probably one of my favorite old-timey ones, I think.
Absolutely.
Because to this day, there's still so much mystery around it. So good, but so bad.
And honestly, I had forgotten that detail.
That she was part of it. Well, not part of it all, but it's funny how the Cecil Hotel kind of sticks its toe into like all
Oh,
these little
yeah.
cases. But then again, statistically speaking, LA, it was crazy back then, still crazy now. And if you're there, you're going to encounter something.
Oh,
And,
definitely.
You know, the Cecil Hotel has been there for a very long time.
In November of that year, 35-year-old Robert Smith jumped out of the window of his room on the 7th floor. His room showed no evidence of foul play and there was no note left behind. Not much is known about him other than one source that states that he was a gay man and he couldn't cope with how society was treating him.
There were no major incidents reported within the hotel between 1947 and 1954. It seems as if the majority of the activity was happening outside of the hotel. Skid Row was growing, and the results of poverty were encompassing the area more than ever. The hotel no longer catered to the wealthy. It was now home to addicts, dealers, and criminals.
On October 17th, 1954, a 55-year-old woman checked into the hotel under the name Margaret Brown after the recent passing of her husband. A few days later, she jumped out of the window and landed on top of the hotel sign. She was later identified as Helen Gurney.
Numerous people reported seeing her jump, and one man had to be rushed to the hospital after becoming hysterical. I would imagine.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a rough thing to see.
Trauma.
Yeah.
Hello.
On February 11th, 1962, Julia Frances Moore jumped from her hotel room window.
They should really start screwing those bitches closed.
I know.
At this point.
And also, weird, a lot of this happened on the 9th floor.
Oh, spooky.
There's a few where it's like the 7th or whatever,
Yeah.
but the majority of the jumpers are on the 9th floor.
This is really morbid. Stay with me.
Okay.
Is it because it's high enough that most people think, yeah, that'll kill me? Whereas if you jump from a lower floor, it might not.
I mean, maybe.
They're trying to make sure that they're going to do a good job, I
Yeah.
guess.
Upon inspection of Julia's room, they found her ID card but no note. She also had 59 cents in her pocket. When investigators went through her purse, they were shocked to find bank records stating she had $1,800 in her bank account. This would amount to close to $20,000 in today's money.
Woo. A few months later, Pauline and Dewey Otten were staying on the 9th floor as well. Their marriage had been rocky, and witnesses reported hearing them argue on the night of October 12th. At some point, Pauline wrote a suicide note and leapt from the window.
To make it even more tragic, Pauline fell on top of a 65-year-old homeless man named George Gianni.
God damn it.
Initially, police thought that the two had jumped together, but this theory was dismissed when they saw that George still had both of his hands in his pockets and was still wearing his shoes. They determined this could not be the case if he jumped.
Apparently that's a thing
Mhm.
for, well, a lot of people who are hit by vehicles, their
Yes.
shoes just fly off.
Yeah.
Which is wild that you could have like boots
Mhm.
laced up and they just fly off because you're flopping through the air. But they also do say that about a lot of suicide jumps as well, is
Yeah.
that your shoes fall off, which is such a weird aspect
It
of it.
is.
It's just kind of, it's already really morbid and gross and tragic. That's weird.
And it's sad too because this poor guy, like,
He did the man is already not having a good time.
No.
He's a homeless individual sleeping on the streets of Skid Row by the Cecil Hotel.
yeah.
And then this Pauline also not having a good time
Mm-mm.
one way or another, whether you think she was whether you think she was pushed or
Yeah.
jumped. And then she lands on another dude. That sucks, man.
This next one made me extra sad.
Oh no.
On June 4th, 1964, a 65-year-old woman was found dead in her room. Locals knew her as Pigeon Goldie Osgood. She had been living in the hotel for a number of years after retiring from her job as a phone operator. Goldie was well liked and would spend hours each day feeding the birds in a nearby park.
People who knew her would say that she always made a point to ensure every bird got enough food and would often chase away the bigger ones so that the old and sick could get a meal. Aw, you are gonna break my heart.
People loved her. She was a staple in the community. She was one of those people where she didn't really have any family or really friends, but
Mhm.
everyone who encountered her really liked her. She would get up in the morning. She would take a full bag of birdseed every single day to this park, and she would just sit there for hours and feed the birds, and everyone would say hi to her.
I feel like she'd be the kind of person where, like you say, not really any friends or family, but no enemies.
Exactly.
You know, like I feel like even the hard people of Skid Row would leave her be.
And they did.
Ugh.
Goldie's room was ransacked. Her body showed evidence of a sexual assault. She was also badly beaten, strangled, and stabbed. Tenants had seen her just moments prior. Shortly after, 29-year-old Jacques Ellinger was found near the hotel covered in blood. He was ruled out as a suspect, and Goldie's murder remains unsolved to this day.
Jacques, I swear to God, it better not have been you, my friend.
Why were you covered in blood, Jacques?
Why would you attack the pigeon lady of the
Yeah.
Cecil Hotel?
Yeah.
You evil bastard. If it, not saying it was Jacques, because maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. But whoever did that, you piece of shit,
Mhm.
taking out literally a light of joy
Yeah.
in this very, very dark place.
And one of the things that the hotel had started doing by this point was less and less people were renting the rooms out for a night or a weekend or something like that. They had several long-term tenants, like Goldie, who had lived
Yeah.
there for a few years.
It wouldn't also surprise me if they had like hourly rooms at this point as well.
Yeah.
On December 16th, 1975, a woman checked into the hotel under the name Allison Lowell. She jumped out of a 12th floor window. Her identity has never been confirmed.
That's another one where it's two sentences in one newspaper.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't know who she is,
Yeah.
she didn't leave a note,
Mhm.
you're basically a ghost.
Yep. By the 1980s, the city of Los Angeles was living in fear. Among multiple serial killers who were active during that time was none other than Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. By the time he was arrested in 1985, it was rumored that he was responsible for anywhere between 13 and 38 murders.
What many people do not know is that during his active years, Richard Ramirez called the Cecil Hotel his home. Witnesses saw him remove his bloody clothing on numerous occasions. He would throw them into the dumpster and then walk into the hotel wearing only his underwear. Red
Ugh.
flags, anyone?
Right.
Hello? Hi, Richard. Lost your clothes again? Okay.
Maybe check the dumpster. There are some who believe that he conducted satanic rituals while staying at the hotel, which led to a demonic infestation of the building.
Which, of course, is probably not likely, but is an interesting note. And I mean, if anyone is going to cause a demonic infestation of a building, it'd probably be Richard Ramirez.
Oh, yeah.
So I could see it.
In 1991, Jack Unterweger, another serial killer, was inspired by Ramirez to stay at the Cecil.
This is also another interesting case that could be its own episode. Jack Unterweger is someone we actually do want to cover soon, so maybe you will see him pop up. He was originally convicted of a murder in 1974 and spent his time in prison writing a book. He convinced the literary world that he was rehabilitated, and this resulted in them lobbying for his release.
And it worked. He was paroled in 1990. He befriended police in various countries across the world and spent his time getting paid for interviews and doing ride alongs with his new buddies.
Unfortunately, he was far from reformed. Jack Unterweger ultimately went on to kill between 12 and 15 more people before he was caught again. He took his own life in prison before he could even be convicted for his crimes.
It's a fascinating case.
It's a wild one. And he, like you said, he's not just in LA, he traveled all over the
Yep.
place. He was all over the world.
In 1992, a man's body was found in the alley behind the hotel. It is believed that he jumped or was pushed from the rooftop. His identity has never been revealed, and the case is still considered open.
All of those bring us to 2013, which is one of the most undoubtedly famous cases linked to the Cecil, the death of Elisa Lam. She had arrived at the hotel a few days prior as part of a solo trip around the West Coast. Elisa was 21 years old and studying at the University of British Columbia.
Her parents were hesitant about their daughter going on this trip, and she had promised to check in with them every day to let them know she was all right. On January 31st, they became worried when they didn't hear from her. She was scheduled to check out of the hotel that following day. Her parents contacted the LAPD, who searched the hotel but found no answers.
What they did find was surveillance footage of Elisa in one of the elevators.
And we did post that video on Patreon if you want to see it.
It's quite famous. I mean, it's
Yeah.
out there where you want to see it. It's one of the strangest.
Oh,
And
it's so weird.
obviously, if you already know a little bit about Elisa Lam's case, or you're going to learn a little bit more today, when you see the information and then the videos,
Mhm.
it doesn't answer any questions at all.
No.
You think seeing the footage would create some clarity on the case, but in fact, it just makes it weirder.
Yeah.
In the video, she can be seen walking into the elevator and pressing all of the buttons. She then steps in and out multiple times and pokes her head out into the hallways. In the last few minutes, she steps out and stands by the left side of the door, moving her hands in strange gestures with a smile on her face. She then walks away, and that would be the last time Elisa Lam was seen alive.
You know what gets me about the video more than anything? She exits the elevator, and elevators have like a sensor where, like, if you're the door
So if
won't
the door
close on
starts to
you.
close, you stick your arm out, the door
Exactly.
opens.
So she is outside of the elevator completely, and the door stays open. And it stays open for almost the whole video.
Which is weird because usually they
It would
close after
close.
like 3 to 5 seconds.
Exactly. And so you see her kind of standing out there. She's doing all this weird stuff with her hands. And then she walks away. And as soon as she actually walks away, that's when the door closes.
One of the theories was that there was someone else in the elevator with her
Mhm.
who had been sort of CGI'd out.
Mhm.
So that when she was acting weird and like making these gestures and speaking and smiling, maybe those actions would have made more sense if someone was there.
Yeah.
But then that, I think, was also disproven.
Yeah. And the thing, like you said about the video, is it really doesn't answer anything. I watched it again yesterday, and you're just left with more questions. Like it's just so bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. Many, many questions. The video made its way around the world, with many web sleuths attempting to find out what happened to her. Many believe that due to the strange nature of the video, that she was either looking for someone or something was looking for her. But after all, the Cecil Hotel has almost 100 years of strange history under its belt, so many believe that it was haunted.
2 weeks after the video was made public, maintenance workers began investigating the hotel water tanks. People have been complaining about low water pressure along with strange tasting tap water.
What they found was the body of Elisa Lam. To this day, there's no real answer about how Elisa ended up in the water tank. Hotel staff told police that she was always seen by herself.
Autopsy results showed that she had consumed drugs related to her bipolar disorder, but that there was no evidence of alcohol or illicit substances.
Her toxicology report also showed that she had taken a dose of her antidepressant that day, but she had not taken her second dose or her mood stabilizer. She also did not take an antipsychotic medication that was prescribed to her.
Many believe that her death was the result of a manic episode. The manager of the hotel stated that she had originally stayed in a hostel style room, but had been forced to move into her own space after complaints about her strange behavior.
The Lamb family filed a wrongful death suit against the hotel, saying that they had failed to inspect hazards in the hotel that could present a risk to guests. They argued back, saying that they had no reason to believe someone would be able to get into the water tanks.
The man who found her body, Santiago Lopez, stated that it had been difficult to even get to the water tank. He had to go onto the 15th floor, turn off the rooftop alarm, climb a ladder to the platform where the tanks were, and then finally climb another ladder to access the tank itself.
And another thing that was pointed out as well is that Elisa Lam was not a big woman.
No.
She was small and quite slim, I think. And the hatch on the water tower on the roof itself was incredibly heavy.
Yes.
And I believe even Santiago had said, it was difficult for me to lift it. I don't think she would have been able to lift it, get in, and then how did she close it again?
And how did the alarm not go off?
Exactly. How was she getting access to places? And I mean, now the alarm not going off, that could have been the result of just faulty safety issues for sure, right? Like she could have just stumbled up there and by happenstance, the alarm wasn't working. But then paired up with the strange video in the elevator, the fact that she's accessing places she shouldn't be able to access, climbing all the way onto the roof, and then climbing up a ladder, lifting open a heavy hatch, climbing into a water tower, and then closing it on top of herself, just seems very unlikely.
The lawsuit was ultimately dismissed because she was found in an area that guests were not allowed to access.
Woof.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, but how did she get there?
Yeah.
One of the wildest sort of unsolved mysteries that is somewhat solved.
It's one of those ones where, yes, it's solved officially, but I don't believe it. There's so much more to this case, I think, and I can see why so few people are satisfied with the answers.
I don't think I'm satisfied.
No.
The case might be closed, but I don't think we really got an answer.
No.
Due to the everlasting long list of deaths at the hotel, many believe that it is, of course, a hotbed for the paranormal. Others think that it could be a link to the spirit world itself.
Which brings us to none other than Zach Bagans and his crew.
I mean, if we're talking about a place like this, chances are Zach Bagans got his hands on it.
They, along with other teams, have investigated the hotel. Incidents such as unexplained scratches on their skin were noted, along with faucets turning on by themselves. They also claim to have encountered screaming and odd smells, along with a feeling of unease during their time there.
Well, yeah, it's got a history. And I think, again, you're going into it being like, this is a haunted hotel. We gonna get haunted.
And I also...
Zach Bagans gets scratched on every episode.
Exactly.
Every episode.
I don't, like, fully believe his opinion when it comes to this.
No.
Because he is doing it out of pure entertainment.
Just as anecdotal evidence, if you will, a couple of years ago, me, Cody, and all the homies were watching Ghost Adventures in Discord. And the first episode, the first ever episode, is already like someone gets possessed, someone gets scratched, they got video evidence, and it's like, this is the first episode, guys.
Yeah.
How do we go up from here?
You know what? That's why I always liked the show Ghost Hunters. Did you watch that one?
Yes.
Because I feel like a lot of that was probably bullshit too, but I enjoyed how a lot of the episodes, they were like, oh no, it's not ghosts. You have faulty wiring and it's making you go crazy or something like that. Whereas I feel like with Bagans, it's
always ghosts.
It's always ghosts
or demons or something.
Yeah.
Whereas in my mind, not to toot our own horns, but if you are truly a scientist in search of answers, it's kind of like Mythbusters. Even when you don't get the outcome you think you were going to get, it's still an answer.
Exactly.
Right?
You've done your job.
You might not have proved something exists, but in this case, you proved it didn't exist, which is still an answer.
Yeah.
Science.
Zach.
In 2013, the hotel was rebranded as Stay on Main in an effort to rid themselves of the sordid history. Needless to say, I mean, we're talking about it, so it hasn't worked.
No. In 2021, the owners announced plans to reopen the building as a shelter for the homeless. But it seems as if the people who called it home wish that they hadn't.
There are constant altercations between residents, rampant drug use, and a terrible cockroach infestation. Along with other maintenance and security issues, many people were simply afraid to leave their rooms.
As of 2024, half of the units were vacant, with the hotel struggling to stay afloat. The latest news about it is that the ground lease is up for sale, but it doesn't seem that many people are jumping at the chance to own this piece of Los Angeles history.
Oh, did you say that on purpose? Jumping at the chance.
I did it.
Oh, but sorry, guys, that's morbid. Needless to say, the future of the Cecil Hotel is currently a mystery, but it's really nothing at all compared to its puzzling past. That's the Cecil Hotel.
It is.
We ain't staying there.
No.
There's a crow that landed on that, and it just appeared, and it scared the shit out of me. For y'all who are watching on the Patreons, we have a window to the side of us, and I just saw this black thing appear and like flutter, and I was like, yeah. And now it's gone. And it was gone before Dina could even see it. So now I look like a crazy person. Anyway.
Yeah. That really set the mood,
I didn't like that.
I love it.
What an omen. I'm going to have to be extra careful driving home today. Jeepers creepers. Yeah, that's it. That's the Cecil Hotel.
I'm glad we finally covered it.
Me too. It's always weird to say that this is one of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cases because there's many cases, but it's one of my favorite true crime icons, if you will.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have something that can be an icon that isn't a serial killer, because I don't like saying those bitches are icons.
Exactly. This is an icon.
This hotel, she's an icon.
Mm-hmm.
We are, of course, at that point in the episode where it's the outro. If you're here, thank you for sticking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone on Patreon.
Yeah.
I have seen that we have a bunch of new free members, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Reminder to the free members, you can get a week's trial for the paid content as well. Free members, of course, get early episode reveals. We're going to be posting extra stuff on there. Paid members get the Discord, the video versions of the episodes, all sorts of fun stuff. And of course, we always give a shout out to our top tier, the Grim VIPs.
So a humongo thank you to the wonderful, the fantabulous Mayhem Mudkip, Lisa, Nova, Kevinus Musicus, Brian, Bob, Paranoid Pop Rocks, Steven Centauri, Judy, and Atlantean Jedi.
Woo woo!
And thank you to the free members that are joining. Welcome.
Welcome.
We love to
Patreon's
see
a good
you.
place to be.
It is. And I think a lot of the time when people hear Patreon, they automatically think, oh, we got to pay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't got to pay. You can join the free tier. Absolutely.
Definitely.
We appreciate the extra bucks that go into the podcast to improve things and make things better. But we're happy that you're just around. And shout out to everyone on the social medias and on YouTube and on Spotify and on all the other platforms. You're all amazing. We appreciate you.
And don't forget, we are live on YouTube every Saturday at 12 p.m. MST discussing the episode in real time. So come on over.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Also, if you're listening on the Saturday that this episode releases, don't forget, every second Wednesday is extra credit.
Yeah.
So if you want more grim goodness, check it out. It's a more laid-back version of the show where we bring usually a couple different stories each, and we just talk about whatever we want to talk about, because it's kind of, in the words of Trixie and Katja, it's our show, so we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for listeing. This has been
The Grim Curriculum.
So this fact, I didn't bother to fact check it, but I'm going to believe that it's true.
Okay.
I recently saw that when you say someone is going ham, it stands for hard as a motherfucker.
I hope that's true.
Me too. If it's not, I don't want to know.
No, don't correct us.
No.
That's the one thing you're not allowed to correct us on. Hard as a motherfucker.
Bye.
Bye. I like that.